So that's possible. And after bishop d2, though, the main line, and this is the one I'm going to recommend for anyone who's looking at this from the black point of view, very simple way to play against this. You just play bishop takes d2 check. Now they have to capture with a knight, because if they capture with the queen, they still haven't defended this pawn here.
No,
and we can take it with... Well, we can take it because after they attacking the queen, they move the queen, trying to do a pin, and black's got many ways to defend it, but I want to show that move d5 again, and I've always been talking about this move, but it's such an important move that I think it needs sort of reiterating how powerful this move is, pawn to d5, because it defends the knight on e4 and it attacks the bishop on c4, and this bishop on c4 is always happy to see that d pawn moved out of the way. I mean, without exception, that bishop is so happy that pawn's gone. It now has a free reign all the way down to any of the normal squares that we like to go to.
It's quite interesting for me just going through these videos with you to see how these themes keep popping up time and time again. The attacking the pawn on f7, the moving the black pawn down to d5. We've talked about these ideas in quite a few different videos now.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So this is all not very good for white. So after bishop takes d2, white should capture back with the pawn, the knight, excuse me. And this does have the advantage of defending the pawn on e4. However, didn't we say that the knight would prefer to go to this square when it was on b1? And there's a reason why. If white's knight was on c3, black cannot now do the move that the key move that we always talk about, because white has got 2 pawns in the centre and black has absolutely none. So is there any way we can remedy that?
I play d5 again.
Do you think we can get away with it? So have you done the count, Nick? Have you counted how many pieces are defending it?
If the it's being defended by the black knight, but it's also defended by the black queen, and it's only being attacked by the white pawn and the white bishop.
Good. So if it's 2 pieces defending it and 2 pieces attacking it, are we going to be okay? Do you think?
Yes.
Good. And there we go. Pawn to d5. There we see that move again. Very important, because if black were to castle, which looks okay, here we see the pawn charging up the board. This pawn on e5 doing a devastating job of trying to attack the knight. The knight's got to move. Even if black tries to play a smart move like that, pinning us back, it only delays it for one move because we are just going to castle. And again we have that same problem. Look, where is the knight going to go? So always black needs to be very aware of this d5 move, and here it's a good move. Forks the 2 pieces on c4 and e4, doesn't it? So white can capture and black takes back. Now this knight on... Well, something new's happened here. The pawn structure has changed. Here we see this knight is on something called... I think you mentioned it in another chapter, Nick. Then when the knight is on a square where no opposition pawns can attack it, it is called
an outpost.
It's called an outpost. And do you think knights like outposts?
I think they do, because it's hard to sort of push them away from them.
That's right. White has other pieces to attack it, but no other pawns, because of course if the bishop captures, the queen would just capture back, and it's defending it, isn't it? Just like this, down towards here. White needs to have a pawn or a piece of lower value than the knight, and the only one is the pawn. Also, something else has happened. This pawn here on d4. Now, do you know what that's called? It's got a special name.
I think I do. This is the pawn, because it's got no other pawns supporting it on either side. Would you call it an isolated pawn? That's
right. It's called an isolated queen's pawn. We call it an isolated queen's pawn because it's on the same file as what the queen is. So that's just a way of denoting it. But that is an isolated pawn. And do you think that looks quite strong or quite weak?
Well, because it doesn't have a pawn either side. If it had a pawn on e3 or c3, then I'd say it was strong. But because it doesn't, to me that looks weak.
Yeah, that's right. But there's no pawns either side that would defend it. So it is quite weak. And black would think about trying to attack that in the future.